In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create an interactive storyboard using Google Slides. So we have had a look at a couple of other ways of creating interactive worksheets using Google Slides. So please make sure that you have a look at those videos as well, especially the first video where we go through the whole process a little bit more slowly and explain a lot of the steps that we need to take in order for it to work. So let's change the background. We're going to go for a light kind of teal background here. So what we want to do now is we're going to build frames for a storyboard. This is a different way that learners can tell stories. Using cartoons and using visual cues often makes it easier for learners to get a story and a message across. So let's see what we can do in terms of making something that they can use to tell their stories. This is going to be a slightly more complicated one for learners to use. So this is something that what's great about this is they will learn a number of soft skills, as we call them, soft computer skills that they also need. The ability to drag and drop, to copy and paste, to type, things like that, which are very important skills that they need to learn that's going to help them going forward. So let's start by just creating 3 frames because we're just going to keep it simple and have 3 frames on this page, but we leave a little space at the top, and you'll see in a minute why we do that. So there's our first frame. I just like to make it a nice white background with a thick, clearly visible border. So there we add our second block, and let's add in a third block right now. So I see my blocks don't quite fit. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to make all of them a little bit smaller, and then we see that it fits onto the screen. Onto the canvas at least. So there we go. So there I've got my 3 blocks for my template. Now this is essentially the going to be the background. So I'm just going to go through the process of flattening it quickly. So at this point, you can leave it over to either to their creativity or to your own creativity to give them, depending on how much you want to give them as building blocks. I would, however, make sure that we add some speech bubbles that they can copy and paste and use in their cartoons. So let's just go here to insert, and we'll go to shape, call outs, and you'll see we've got these 4 different call outs. I usually like using the rounded rectangle, and then the thought bubble are 2 ones that I think are good to include. So let's just first draw a little normal speech bubble. So there we have it. Fill it with white, give it the black border, make it a little bit thicker. So there I've got my one speech bubble. I'll just go and just to show you another trick that you can use. If you're happy with the styling of this one and you don't want to go through that whole process, we can simply copy and paste this one, move it over there. There we've got our second one. And then when we right click on it, I can go change shape, call outs, and I can select a different type. So there I've got my thought bubble as well. Just a tip that you can show the learners, if you need to adjust where the start of the bubbles or the start of the line comes, then you drag that diamond corner, that the little yellow corner, so we can drag it. So there I've got my speech bubbles, I've got my frames ready. So these are essentially going to be copied and pasted as many times as they need it. Now you can allow your learners to go and find their own characters. So you can do this in a number of different ways. Let's go insert, and we're going to go image, search the web. The first character I would like to include is a horse. So go look for cartoon horse. Now, the nice thing when you add things like this, what will happen automatically is Google is going to go through its image search functions, which I'm sure people have already discovered. It'll find free to use images that doesn't actually have any watermarks on them and that won't have a background. Not all of them are going to be like this, but often when you say cartoon something, it tries to look for clip art which doesn't have a background. So here I can easily go and insert my horse, click and drag, and it is going to create the image. And there I've got an image of a horse. So there I've got my horse, and I've got my horse is going to be my first frame. I'm going to add a little speech bubble. Right, so there it is. If you want to, you can of course change this frame that you add an extra little block at the bottom. I'll show you in a minute what I mean by that, for where you can just add a little bit more of a descriptor into what's actually happening. So you've got a speech bubble, you've got a character, etc. What you can also do, something that's especially going to be nice for our younger learners, is if we're going to add a few characters that they can use beforehand. So let's see if we can find something on flat icon for that. So we're going to go start. We're going to open up flat icon. Remember, that's on our add-ons, icons for slides. Remember, this is an add-on that you have to add. So if you don't have it, first go to get add-ons and add flat icon. And here I'm just going to look for characters and see what I find. So you'll see there's a whole bunch of different types of characters that you can use, that you can include. So this is only page 1 of 307 to give you a sense of how many different characters I could potentially use from flat icon. Now you can have your learners add their own characters, or you can decide we are going to tell a story about magic. All of us will tell the story about magic. So there's a character, a witch character. I'm just going to go insert, and there I've got my witch character. Now, what's nice is what it does is it'll automatically firstly set my style through these filters, that it's going to look for the same kind of characters that are similar, but it'll also show me this character comes from a pack called Magic. Now, there's a whole bunch of characters in here. There's unfortunately also a whole lot of things in here that would have been nice to use, but are only available on the paid for version, the premium version. So I don't have to use those. I can just include some characters that I need to include. So I'm just going to add a couple of characters. So there I have a few more characters, and what the learners will now do is they will move characters into these frames. They're going to add their speech bubbles. They're going to say, and of course, these speech bubbles, just to make it look a little bit nicer, we're going to give it an appropriate font. Hi, my name is Princess Sparkles the Witch. Right. So as an example, and we can just copy and paste that and add it to different things. One of the reasons why I think this is a very useful activity is, having taught high school English in the past, what I found when learners have to tell stories, they often are too elaborate with what they want to tell. They want to include too many characters. Their story is going to be too involved and too lengthy, and there's a word limitation that restricts them from really going into that kind of detail. So this is quite a nice way to give them freedom to express themselves, but at the same time containing those ideas, that they don't become too wild and too crazy. And you can have a lot of fun building a variety of these. If you feel that 3 frames are not enough, simply select a frame, copy it and paste it, and now you've got 6 frames. So this is an interesting exercise. I would recommend that you don't necessarily try and do this on a cell phone. A tablet could still work for this. Ideally, a computer lab is going to be perfect for this. Remember, if you create these Google Slides, this is also a fantastic project to do in collaboration, where you've got 2 or 3 learners editing simultaneously on the one slide to create their story, where they can discuss it, talk about it, move things around, and then help each other to create their amazing story using these storyboards.